Okay, so lastly, on the triptych of film analysis, I saw a more recent film, Omaha. That is not Shia LaBeouf. It's a different person. I wonder how intentionally they were like, "Oh, this guy looks like Shia LaBeouf," because it kind of feels like it must have been intentional. Because Shia LaBeouf famously is unable to behave himself in a responsible manner and be a positive member of society, despite all the privileges he's been granted in his adult life. I think he had a tough childhood. I don't know his exact background. I'm not going to talk about Shia LaBeouf the whole time. Anyways, this guy very clearly looks like Shia LaBeouf, so I feel like it kind of works because everyone has those associations. Like that to me, that meta thing of like, this is just one example of a meta thing, but like casting someone who looks like someone else, especially if it's never mentioned in the film, but even if it is, that's a very interesting thing to me, that sort of meta level. And it would make sense here because his character is quite flawed, has some anger issues, not as bad as what I've read about Shia LaBeouf, but it would sort of make sense if they were like, we don't mind if it does bring up for people associations with Shia LaBeouf. Anyways, it's enough about Shia LaBeouf. So that's not Shia LaBeouf. This Omaha is the story. Again, spoiler alert. Okay, I'm gonna spoil this film in various ways, and it's worth seeing without these spoilers. So maybe come back to this after you see Omaha. Spoiler, spoiler. Omaha is a film about a father and his kids, and at the start of the film, they are leaving their house forever. And you don't know exactly. I mean, you get the sense that they're being evicted. Actually, you do know why they're leaving, that they're being evicted. That he can't pay, that they are destitute, that they have no money. The car barely starts. They have no money for things. The mom has passed away at some point in the past, probably like several years ago, because I think the youngest son or the son doesn't really seem to like. I don't know. Maybe the son has memories with the mom. I forget exactly what. So you see them leaving. They're going. I don't know exactly what state they're in, but they're. You sort of find out they're going to Omaha, Nebraska. It's actually not clear if they were going to Omaha, Nebraska, or they just start. Like he says, we're going to Nebraska. Then the girl tells a stranger, we're going to Nebraska, and the stranger goes, "Oh, you should go to the Omaha Zoo or whatever." And so the girl tells the dad, "Hey, can we go to Omaha Zoo?" And he's like, "Sure." So then they're going to Omaha at that point. Oh, never mind. Yeah, because of the something I'll mention, the title screen that comes at the end. They were going to Nebraska the whole time. He just didn't care if they were going to Omaha yet, but he decides to go to Omaha because he wants to give them this amazing last time before. Spoiler alert. So I'll get to that. So it's very sad. It's a sad film, but it has a lot of uplifting moments, but it's very sad to see a family forced out of their home by poverty, right? Like there's no other explanation. We don't have any reason to think anything else happened or what. Like he's forced out of his home from poverty. Now, he's an interesting and complicated character because he's not 100% likable. He talk about like people not opening up about things. But in this case, it's adult to child, so it's a little bit different and more understandable. But he doesn't open up really about the money issues to his kids. Like obviously the girl who's I believe 10 or 9 in the film, she is aware that there's money issues on some level, but it's not like the dad in most real life situations. I think it would be good for a parent to be more clear with the kids. We're having serious money issues and stuff, but the dad can't kind of face it himself in some ways. Like they're leaving their house at the last possible minute because he didn't even like prepare the kids. He didn't, that was his way of getting evicted. Not everyone would do it that way. Leaving at the last possible minute, not having told their kids, anything about what's going on. He also doesn't really seem to open up about his grief about his wife who has passed away. Like at one point you see him crying in the bathroom, like obviously thinking of his wife, I believe, based on the context, or maybe just thinking about the whole situation. And the girl, and it's his daughter, so it's understandable he doesn't like unload his feelings, but she's like, "How are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm just tired." Or she doesn't say, "How are you doing?" But he's like, "I'm just tired." Like, it's just, I'm not criticizing it. This is part of what makes the film interesting is he's flawed. He has a hard time opening up, and at the very end of the film, you see him open up to an adult, or at least like ask for help, and it's like the sort of happy ending within a really sad ending. It's not a happy ending. I shouldn't say that, but it's like the sort of personal growth aspect within a sad ending that he does ask for help, and I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, so he's got his issues. He's flawed. At one point, a very poignant moment, the girl puts on a recording of the mom singing, the late mom singing, and and then the girl starts like putting her hand out the window, putting her head out the window even, which is dangerous. But we see the dad react really angrily, be way too harsh, way too mean to the girl, way too mean. And that's because obviously, maybe it's a little obvious. Probably just because I think about mental health stuff a lot. It wasn't like too obvious or too contrived, but he's obviously sublimating his sadness into anger. And he's, instead of like owning the sadness that comes up for him hearing his late wife singing, he expresses himself as anger. Now, that's obviously unhealthy, and a parent should, or anyone should say, I'm sorry, I just got angry. I was really sad, and I have a hard time feeling sad, so it turns into anger. And there's another point in the film we see where his sadness turns into anger, which maybe it's time to talk about now. So at first, he gives up the dog to the SPCA. And it's really sad. And it's really fucking sad. This is a great movie. I think it was really well done. I love like slow-paced movies like this where it's relatively simple in a sense. It's nice. But yeah, he gives up the dog, and the kids are so sad. I guess he didn't warn the kids because they would have freaked out and not been okay with it. So I can kind of understand not warning the kids about getting rid of the dog. Not really, actually. Not really. No, I shouldn't say that. You have to talk with your kids about stuff like that. You can't just get rid of the dog. You have to talk with your kids and deal with the fact that they're going to be really upset. I don't know what to tell you. You have to talk to them about getting evicted and moving to another state. But he doesn't do it. And so they move on, and then, so the very end of the film, spoiler alert, he abandons the children at a hospital because he realizes he doesn't realize, he runs out of his last dollar. So he gives them a nice time at the Omaha Zoo, and it's this positive montage. And then it's giving me chills to talk about. It's so fucking sad. But he like drops them off at the hospital and abandons them because he's like, I can't provide for them. I can't give them a life. And like, obviously you're watching and you're like, that's not good. What are you doing? You're like, do you not have any family members? Like, do you not have anyone that could help you? We don't know. We don't know anything about his family, which is obviously an intentional choice of the film. You can assume he doesn't. Some people don't have any safety net. They don't have any family members in their life that can help with something like this. Let's just assume that's the case. It's also, I think, given his character, it's possible he does actually have family members who could help in some capacity. Like, all you need is a family member with a fucking apartment. You know what I mean? Like, you don't even need rich uncles. Like, but it doesn't matter one way or the other. He's not asking for help. And he's like, I'm unable to provide for my kids, so I need to not take care of them anymore. Even though you see, he's like, I've highlighted some ways he could have been a better father, but like, you see ways that he is quite a good dad. He's like a very, like the anger stuff and whatever, like that's unfortunately like that happens. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he is clearly a net good dad. I don't think we ever learn what his trade was also, like, or like what work he's done. I never even thought about that. We don't learn anything about what work he's done, I don't think. So he abandons the kids at a hospital, and it's like super sad. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing, bro? Like, what are you doing? And then there's a scene where, again, we see his sadness come out as anger. He's at a diner, feeling horrible about himself, resting his head on the table. The diner proprietor says, don't sleep in my diner. And he starts throwing things everywhere. The main character, the dad. So So then finally, he goes back to the hospital to like, because he feels bad about what he's done, and he doesn't really know what to do. I don't think, but he's just standing there, and then the woman who I guess like a nurse or staff at the hospital sees him, remembers him from the night before, and says, "Can you come inside?" And so she explains to him like social services obviously picked up your kids, and they're in like a process now where like, you know, you're not going to be able to see them in the near term, but obviously he can see them in the future. You know, I don't know the legalities of this stuff, but like he did the right thing by going back to the hospital. And so anyways, so like he obviously didn't do the right thing by dropping the kids off at the hospital. That's not what you do. You reach out to other types of human services. It's not even a question. You don't traumatize your children and yourself in that way. You try to ask for help, but he finally asks for help to this woman at the hospital, and you know he kind of is vulnerable, and that leads to the possible potential outcome that he will see his kids again. Now, a lot of this potentially could have been avoided by him asking for help earlier, and I think that's a beautiful message in the film, that it's okay to ask for help. It's good to ask for help. Also, I figured a message in the film was we should do something about this world where poverty forces families to do things like this, because this is not a made up situation. Like, this does happen, and like they were forced by poverty out of their home. So like, how do we create a world where people are not forced by poverty out of their home? And then, okay, here's where I complain. Okay? And this was wild to me. The film ends. Great moment of him, you know, asking for help or whatever. I forget the exact last line or whatever. It actually ends on a flashback to him with his kids. And he's like watching them race, and they're like, ready, set, go. And then it ends. Perfect ending on Ready, Set, Go. Really cool. Perfect ending. He's asked for help. You get, like, the message is clear, you know. Asking for help is good. And I don't need the message to always be clear in movies, but the message is clear. Asking for help is good. You know, don't have toxic expectations for yourself and then make bad decisions just because you can't live up to those expectations. Ask for help earlier and more thoroughly. And then also, like, the message of, like, hey, what's going on in this society where poverty forces families into horrible situations? But then a title card comes on the screen and says that in whatever year Nebraska decriminalized abandoning children, and then before they had time to rewrite the laws in such and such way, like 35 children had been abandoned by people who had traveled to Nebraska just to abandon their children. And then that title goes away. This made me so upset. This really, like, I was like, what the fuck? And then another title comes on and says, none of them infants. About the kids. None of them were infants. And that comes on its own. So that's the most important thing that ends the film. That none of these kids that were abandoned were infants. Okay. Okay. Abandoning infants is quite bad too. Like, I get that like the older a kid is, the worse it is to abandon them, I guess. It's already quite bad in the beginning though, right? So like, but yeah, sure, when they're 10 and 5 or whatever, like that's worse even. Yeah, sure. I wouldn't say that's the most important thing to take away from the film was, oh God, I'm so upset that he abandoned those kids because of how old they were. Like, also, just forgetting that they like brought that title up at the end as if that's the most important thing in the film. Decriminalizing abandoning your kids. I don't know. Should that be criminalized? Would it be better if he had been arrested? Like, okay, there should probably be some criminalization of that. I'm not gonna, like, that's child abuse. You know, so like, I don't know. Should it be a criminal violation? Yeah, I guess it should, like, You don't want to have the laws be too lax where parents are abandoning their kids. But like, what would have happened? Okay, so he presumably knew that Nebraska had these laws, right? He had presumably Googled, where can I abandon my children that I won't get in trouble? I guess? Are you kidding? Like, are you kidding me? Someone who's willing to abandon their kids is only going to do it if they're not going to get criminal charges? I'm pretty sure someone who's at the point of abandoning their children is not going to care if they get criminal charges. But okay, let's say for the sake of argument, he looked it up. He's like, I really need to abandon my children, but not get charged with anything. Oh, Nebraska, great. So he goes to Nebraska, abandons his children. So if Nebraska didn't have these lax laws, then what? He wouldn't have abandoned them? Is that what we think? Like, obviously, I think laws are important and influence people's behaviors. But my takeaway from the film was not we should make it harder for people to abandon their children legally. My takeaway was we should disincentivize people from abandoning their children. How do we disincentivize people? I don't know. Criminal charges is not the thing that comes to mind for me, actually. I think actually like making it easier for parents to provide for their families. But nonetheless, even if you don't want to get into a political message about like universal childcare, universal health care, maybe universal basic income if necessary, unionization at whatever job he worked at. Like, even if you don't want to get into any of that, the message is already ask for help when you need it. Like, the film honestly kind of ruined itself with that one title card at the end, or that 2 or 3 or something. It was like so many title cards, and then none of them infants. Okay. It was remarkable, honestly. Whoever made the film, it was a remarkable decision that I don't know why they thought that added to the film. Having text on the screen at the end is a big decision anyways. It has to be really worth it. To fuck with the emotional... Do you know how quickly that immediately shifts and shuts down the emotional tone of the flashback of him watching his kids race after you've just seen him finally ask for help after abandoning them? I need to learn about Nebraska laws. Is that what this film was about? Nebraska's laws being too lax? Are you kidding me? I'm sorry. I was like, what the fuck? I was literally like, are you kidding me? Horrible ending and shocking because the whole movie is so intimate and slow, and then it ends with this like political message that's like really seems to me not the point. Oh, okay. If Nebraska's laws were different, then he would have asked for help from his family members or from other people, or he would have called, for assistance with his children. I mean, I guess he's already on food stamps. They show that he's on food stamps and he has no money left on his food. So that kind of messes with it a little because he is willing to ask for help. So maybe a question is like, why didn't the title card at the end say we should give more in food stamps? Why is that not the point? Do you realize how much of a difference that would have made to this father if he had 10 times the money in food stamps? Why is that not the point of the film? Like, that literally would have changed the entire plot. I'm sorry. Like, how about like assistance with paying for your house when you have children, and so you're not evicted and homeless with your children? But no, the point is that Nebraska's laws about abandoning children were too lax for a couple years. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? What the hell? Like, who decided to make that the title card at the end of the film? Definitely not the same people who made the film, right? Someone else must have stepped in and be like, we have to make some point about Nebraska's laws about abandonment. Like, who made that decision? It's insane. That's not what the film was about. You don't have... His motivation, like... And, like, criminalizing someone doing something... Like, no one... Like, most people would never want to abandon their children. Okay, and this guy obviously did not want to abandon his children. He did not want to abandon his children. So, It's like criminalizing drug use, like addiction, like where someone doesn't want to be doing heroin every day. You know, they don't want to. So if you criminalize it, you're punishing them further. They're already punishing themselves. So the point, like, I'm not saying they're the same. I don't think it should be like decriminalized to abandon your children, but I definitely don't think that's the central point here. And I would listen to an argument about decriminalizing abandoning your children. Because again, if he's thrown in prison for what? For how long? Like, does that help him? And then he comes out of prison and he's supposed to provide for his children? Like that, I'm sorry. Like, I'm going to just straight up say, like, I don't know if it should be criminalized. Like, but there should be some penalties, I guess, but like, the point is to keep people meeting their needs and to help children not be traumatized and to help families stay together. I was blown away. I was completely caught off guard. I was like, that's not what the film was about. What? Oh yeah, I really wish he was punished more at the end. None of them infants, as if that was the whole point of the film. None of them infants. Terrible judgment by the filmmakers, honestly. Terrible judgment to end the film like that. Bizarre and terrible judgment. But good film nonetheless. I would say leave before the title screen at the end or close your eyes. It's a great film besides that title screen at the end. I'm glad I got to rant about this because I was like, literally, what the hell? And that's what this podcast is all about. I get to rant about whatever I want. So, you know, my friends and family don't have to listen to it. This is a podcast or something like that.